Welcome inside Sport Chek's flagship location at West Edmonton Mall. Tom Gazzola, Bob Stauffer, and Jack Michaels with you for the panel. Gentlemen, a week ago, everything looked great after a 3-0 victory over the Calgary Flames. Fast forward a week, and people are starting to hit the panic button. Is it way too early to be doing so? What have we seen in the last two games from the Edmonton Oilers?
Well, it's way too early, and it'd be way too early if the Oilers were 3-0 and people are saying, we're going to win a Stanley Cup. I mean, That's the nature of October hockey. Let's go back to the first year pack, well, the only year pack win was here, 2009-2010. Oilers started the year 6-2. They ended up with only 27 wins that season. Nugent Hopkins' first year, Jack, you remember, 8-2-2 out of the gate, 32 wins that year. Even last year, Edmonton started the year 7-1 in October, and there was still a sense, well, we've been teased before by this group, let's see how they do. And at 9-8-1, maybe there was some justified thought process to that. Edmonton ended up winning, going 38-18-8 the rest of the way. So, bottom line here, I think it's way too premature. That said, the two performances were subpar, back-to-back in Vancouver and against Winnipeg.
Jack, what stood out in those two performances?
How well the opposition played, and that's one of the adjustments Todd McLellan talked about his club having to make this year. It is a different mindset. It's one of the things that I think a good team goes through in terms of you're not going to have this steady progression anymore in terms of massive improvement in the standings. The Oilers aren't going to finish 30 points ahead of where they did a year ago because that's just not possible. And so you're not only dealing with your own internal expectations, but you're also more often than not dealing with the opponent's best game because they're ready and they're also fearful of getting embarrassed. So they come out with a certain mentality. If we don't come to play, we're going to get run right out of the building. And I know, the secret was out on Connor McDavid in the second half of the season. The bottom line is Edmonton comes with a different cachet this year than it did last year because they have that playoff run behind them, because they have proven guys like McDavid and Draisaitl and Maroon and Lucic. It's a different animal when you're dealing with a new season and you're coming off a 100-plus point year. Edmonton's going to have to deal with it. I don't think this is anything to worry about.
Bob, we've heard a lot of clamoring about the defense, and maybe one of the guys that's into his second year and another guy that's into his third or fourth year in Darnell Nurse. Is there concern with what's going on with Matt Benning and Darnell Nurse and Andre Sekera? How much of a hole has that created, or is it, again, too early to speculate and say that these guys aren't?
Well, first of all, Tom, as you know, it's team defense, and look, Cam Talbot would be the first guy to take full accountability for the fact, like, Jack, if you looked at me and told me that Jacob Markstrom and Connor Hellebuck were going to, come up with the type of performances they did back-to-back, and Talbot would fight the puck a little early in both games, I would have said, yeah, you know what, I'll take Talbot. That's okay going into those games. But that's hockey. As for the breakdowns and the mistakes, those guys are the two guys you mentioned, Benning and Nurse, have an opportunity to take on accelerated minutes. I would think that maybe less is more. In other words, if you're going to play those minutes, maybe economize what you're doing on the ice a little bit more. So, and I think in Nurse's case, that's going to come with time. Benning, I think he's having a bit of a tough time right now, typical sophomore jinx, but he's smart.
Okay, let's take a look ahead to the week ahead. The Ottawa Senators come into town Saturday, kind of weird scheduling with all these days off, and then Carolina's in town on Tuesday. Guys, what do we want to see from the Oilers here this weekend?
Well, first of all, three practice days, so an opportunity for Todd McLellan to drill home some points about how hard it is to win. I think we're going to see that in terms of practice. I'm going to be intrigued to see what the line combinations are going to be. Do they move Leon Draisaitl to his own line? Or do we just think that eventually there's going to be some guys that will get a little bit more comfortable here in time, namely Ryan Strome and Jussi Jokinen, who are both off to quiet starts as well. But you got to give those guys a little bit of a opportunity to get acclimated.
There you go. How's Strome been on at center in your mind?
Up and down. Like I think when he's skated, he's looked pretty good.
Right.
So acclimated. But no, it's well. I think with Ottawa, Jack, it all depends on one guy. Is Erik Karlsson here against Ottawa? They're playing set.
Not one guy. Craig Anderson is a big X factor when you talk about Ottawa. I understand what Erik Karlsson brings to the table, but the Senators have actually played 3 pretty good games without him. They're a scrappy bunch. I mean, they are accustomed to winning games without key guys, finding a way to limp into the playoffs. I mean, last year, they were an eyelash away from the Stanley Cup Finals. So I think Ottawa, and I know they're playing on the second of a back-to-back.
That's where I'm going with Anderson. Right?
Yeah, but you won't see necessarily Craig Anderson, but then again, you might. What's to say they don't start Condon on Friday night against Calgary? Bottom line is Ottawa has a way of remaining competitive, and Guy Boucher finds a way to do it. And whether it's ugly hockey, I don't know how entertained the fans are going to be necessarily on Saturday night at Rogers Place. It can get a little ugly with Ottawa's game plan. And then a couple nights later, you're going to have the opposite, because I think Carolina is a team like Vancouver that's going to play on their toes, except they've got a lot of horses. This is still a club in the Hurricanes that I think is a real sleeper in the Eastern Conference. So one maybe not so entertaining game on Saturday, but I would expect Tuesday's game against the Canes to be fun.
To me, work rate. Work rate has to improve, right? Sure. And you know this, Carolina's going to be stoked to play at Edmonton, because they didn't have anybody watching last night.
Oh, boy. All right, well, the Oilers have 3 days to get acclimated to the pace of the new season. Bob and Jack will see you on 6:30 CHED Saturday night. I've got you covered right here on EdmontonOilers.com. Oilers Senators, 8 p.m. on Saturday.